broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Welcome back, Masters of Sex fans, for the season finale of Season 3 of Masters of Sex. Full 10 Count is the name of the episode, alluding to the boxing dream that Bill is having throughout, the boxing metaphors that have been going on. I'm Will Link. With me, as always, Quinn Scillian.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
And Adrian Snow.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
So yeah, this was it for the season. It was quite an interesting season finale. Mm-hmm. I feel like you have some very strong opinions on it there, Quinn.
Yeah, there were a couple things that I liked and a couple of things I didn't like.
Well, you know what? Let's get to it because
I hated it.
Did you hate it? There were moments you liked, though. There were moments I liked.
There were moments that I chuckled at, but overall, the feeling I had the entire time I was watching it was, I would like to leave now and go to look at the blood moon because I don't want to be here anymore.
Can I say that a big prediction I had like half the season ago came true tonight?
Which one?
About the money, about Bill giving him the money and not having that. And I just want to say that nobody else saw that, and I did.
Well, you know what? There was a lot of, there's a lot to unwrap from this episode, but let's get to like the big things. There was a lot of misdirect from last episode, because last episode we were like, oh, this is going to be all about this child, inappropriate behavior with a child. That's why he's going to be getting arrested or something. But no, it's basically a sting operation set up by Nora and Ronald.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we knew something was going to happen with Ronald because he's been lurking in the shadows the entire season. So,
and I think we kind of referenced it last episode that something's going to happen with the church people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we weren't sure if like the detective was like a real detective or if he was set up by this,
or at least that they were going to take advantage of this in a way. And instead they had Nora. Man, I mean, that talk about a character that did a 180, but I guess you could have never trusted her so much.
I never trusted her.
I didn't. Sketchy Nora.
It's from her days of battling zombies. You knew not to trust her.
No, I think opposite.
But so Bill is arrested in this episode for basically prostitution, and Virginia is as well because it's her clinic too. Yeah. So both of them are brought in. Like this is, I know we're skipping ahead to stuff, but I feel like this is the meat that we want to start with.
But it's crazy because this is about the circus program that Virginia has been, against the entire season, and now Bill took her down with him.
Yeah. It's like everything that Virginia had warned against. All the chickens came home to roost, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
And Nora was really, even up until the moment when Bill's arrested, he's like, well, I'll just talk to Nora. I'll just, he doesn't get it.
He's so naive this entire season. And maybe Bill has always been a little naive. I'm sure he has. But this season he got to a point of naivete.
Yes.
Where I was like, I could punch you multiple times in the face for being so naive when you're like almost a 50-year-old man. Get it together, mother.
I mean, it was nice. It was nice though that Libby had that moment with him when she's like, "Listen, babe, we know what's going on." And it's like, it was nice that Bill kind of got his ignorance thrown in his face a little bit there.
Yes. He's basically every woman in Bill's life, be it
knows more.
From Nora to Virginia to Libby, threw
Betty.
something. Betty, they all threw this in his face in this episode.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so he's arrested. In the meantime, there's this big press conference they're about to have for Little Brown again, and I thought it was interesting. I thought we were going to end
Little Brown Man.
When she kept saying that, I was like,
Little Brown's
is this going to be
a Little Brown Man?
And I was like, oh, okay, Little Brown.
Little Brown. Yeah.
Because they said it so many times, and I was like, are they making a joke? Is this going to be a thing?
I got really nervous.
Same. Little brown man.
Yeah.
But Betty's like running a lot of diversions while they're in jail, and basically, you know, there's a chance all this could end up going away. Like the police chief is basically on their side.
Yeah.
He's like, we'll keep this out of the press. In the meantime, with Dennis's family, Bill has the opportunity to pay them off. Doesn't want to do it. Doesn't want to be extorted.
No, of course, because if he pays them off, what does it look like?
Looks like he did it, yeah. But it's better than the alternative of him being dragged into court publicly, being accused of that. And then, you know, that was like right at the end of the McCarthy era and everything. So they're not going to believe him. And it's a very...
People are paranoid as hell, aren't they?
Once you're accused of something like that, I would argue even in today's society, if you are accused of something
that's enough to totally tarnish any reputation.
Even if it's not true.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Bill Cosby.
Well,
it's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But, you know, I will say...
What a fall from grace that was. Gee whiz.
So many fall from graces. But, it was... Bill Cosby, I will say, had enough people surrounding him and on his side that he held off for 30 years being found out as a monster.
Bill Masters has the world against him.
Yeah.
75% of their mail...
opposite.
75% of their mail is hate mail.
It's hate mail.
Yeah. So they're in jail, and there's this scene when he realizes, where Virginia finds out what he did, and of course Dan Logan paid her bail, so she gets to leave, and Bill's stuck there waiting for Libby. And Libby shows up, and although I know you guys weren't thrilled with the episode, I kind of loved this scene.
Oh, me too.
I will say that I think I called that a while ago when she was first getting with Paul. I said it would be horrible if it ends up being something where I think it's something along the lines of like if she stays with Bill only for Bill to leave
her. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think one thing about this whole episode was like a timing issue. Like everything that happened was just like bad timing. Like with the press conference and like, you know, with Paul just like up and leaving right when like, you know, Bill was ready to end the marriage, and like, you know, with, you know, Bill finally deciding to tell Virginia that he loved her right now. Everything was just kind of like this, like, I think we were talking about comedy of errors kind of thing last week too. It was just kind of like, slightly wrong place, wrong time.
The Paul thing was weird to me though, because
he's just gone.
I didn't realize. I thought like maybe only literally hours had passed since the last episode, but I guess it had been a couple of days. And Paul fled in the night.
Timing issue on the show is always weird. We're never sure where we are.
I will say it had to have been more than just a few days, because there was enough time for Paul to leave, for Dan Logan to go down to Mexico and get a divorce, come back, to have Virginia miss numerous calls from him. And it was one of the times where I thought, okay, their time jump did not work in this instance.
And usually their time jumps are pretty good.
Yeah.
But this one, it was a little too sudden, and I think the first big example of it was the Paul thing.
Yeah.
And that's why it stood out to me, where suddenly like, wait, his house has been sold, or it's for sale? Like, what?
There's this,
where was Virginia on her way to at the beginning of the episode?
Just never said.
Just more me time. Virginia this season. I just need some me. I'm so exhausted. All these men loving me.
She was going away to clear her head. She had to choose between her.
She just needs to go to Palm Springs and put on a robe.
It's really...
I'm obviously not, like, very empathetic here.
Slap that girl.
Man, you guys are really down on everyone.
I just need some meat. I just have to get away.
I hated Bill. I hated Virginia so much. They're so selfish. I want to slap them. I just want to reach into the television.
We got a good slap in today's episode, though, that was satisfying.
But outside of that, it was so exhausting. That's how I felt the entire episode. I was like, I'm exhausted.
I know.
I don't care anymore.
Especially
just end it.
That first conversation when Dan shows up at the office and talks to Virginia. What a snooze fest. And it's supposed to be like, you know, just full of emotion. And I was just like, and then when they finally did, you know, when she went with him at the end of the episode to go to Mexico with him, I was just like, okay, so what was the point, you know?
Well, the problem with that speech with her and Dan, the first one, it It's the exact same thing we've heard from them before.
There's no new information.
I didn't necessarily know. I don't really necessarily hate Virginia in this episode, though.
No, I didn't hate her. I just thought...
you did.
Straight up.
Snooze fest.
But why?
Well, because... I think for me, especially with TV shows, I have to have some way that I'm rooting for you in some way. Like, you can take Walter White and make him a monster, but you have to give me something that makes me still, at least, if not root for him, then at least want to see where is it going to go, what's going to happen to this person. Yeah. And with Bill and Virginia, they've become so self-involved, and the writing, has become so self-involved in terms of them, and not really fleshing out the other characters or giving them much to do, or the things that they do give them, they don't let us find out. They're not going anywhere.
And also, the work has really suffered in this the season.
Work has suffered.
One of the things that was the most interesting was to watch the discoveries. And what did we get this season? I can't even really think of like a...
We haven't gotten a lot of
since Alice and Janney, really, you know what I mean? That was like one of the more satisfying kind of like... But yeah. Well, everything... So if the work isn't there, then what is there?
Well, it's just, I feel like everything in terms of the season and the writing and the characters has suffered under the weight of the Bill and Virginia storyline. And they have become insufferable because of it. It's just like, I don't... You're not building the blocks to get me to still empathize or sympathize with these people.
Right.
Did you have problems with then Virginia's... Because, I don't... Well, I guess the problem I have with Virginia is that by the end of the episode, we still see that she's thinking about Bill, even though she's going off with Dan Logan.
Yeah.
I guess that's my big issue against her. Otherwise, I don't think she's half the monster that Bill is at this point.
No, I don't. I'm not saying I think she's a monster. I'm saying, if... Like, being overly active, like monstrous, like Bill, is annoying. Being underactive, like Virginia,
is annoying in a different way.
Yeah.
It's weird though, because speaking of that little airport bit, which we'll talk about later, but like when Dan was like, are you afraid that he's not coming, or are you whatever, that whole line, it's like, would he still really want to be getting on a plane with her if he's still questioning whether or not she's 100% committed?
It's like Aiden and Mr. Big in Sex and the City. The point when Carrie got Aiden to come back to her, and she was still fooling around with Big, kind of, and not sexually, but still like thinking about him. I hated that season. Yeah. Not because I thought Aiden was right for her, and there's like people can go on and on about who was right for Carrie or whatever, but because it was unfair, and I lost a lot of sympathy for Carrie, because I guess I lose a lot of sympathy for people when they aren't willing to make strong decisions in fiction. Like, you have to make the strong decision.
And it makes it hard for you to follow that.
Yeah, and if the characters aren't making it, that means the writers aren't making it.
Well, let's get back to the one scene we did like, where Bill finally, he confesses the affair to Libby, and that is great, because now Paul is gone. Her one opportunity to get out of this marriage, she's passed up. Her one opportunity at happiness, she passed up for the family, which we saw last episode.
And Robert,
and there's no cell phones, so you can't call him, can't track him down.
Yeah, exactly.
So now Bill is she views Bill as like ruining everything.
Rightfully so.
Yes.
No?
Well, rightfully so because of his past behavior, but
everything that's happened,
Bill,
whether he meant any harm or not, is directly comes from Bill.
But in this moment, could you at all defend that he's doing the right thing?
No, because I hated it.
But wait, he didn't know that she knew, because
Which
he's
is so insulting.
I know.
It is so insulting that he didn't think that she would know.
I agree with that.
That drove me absolutely crazy.
But I'm saying, if you go by the theory, he really didn't know. And when he says stuff like, how can you live like that? And she's like, not well, that it's genuine that he can't believe he did this. Can it be argued that at least in that moment when he says we shouldn't be together, he's doing the right thing?
It comes down to what we talked about earlier, is a matter of timing. So that was an impulsive decision, and it wasn't like he sat and thought about it and said, you know what, what I'm doing is unfair to Libby, and it is time that we end this charade.
And him giving her that I've been cheating on you, what he thinks was a gift to give her that information was actually taking everything away from her.
He's just full of shit. It was just like a childish impulse to say like, okay, hey, I want to just do this because everything's I have all these feelings for Virginia, and it's time. He doesn't think things through, which is the opposite of the Bill that we were introduced to in season 1, and that's why it's become incredibly frustrating. Neither one of them are thinking things through.
Well, he's completely lost his mind at this point. I mean, he's acting like with everything. You're right. He's being too impulsive with everything.
And the whole thing with his keep going back to these boxing kind of breakdowns or
which
whatever.
I hate. I'm so tired of listening.
I wasn't big on those either.
It was just supposed to let us know how messed up he is and how out of his mind he is.
Well, the other thing that's really sick is the whole airport run. Let's just jump to it. The whole airport. So Virginia comes back to.
If it's not Ross and Rachel, I don't want to see anybody chase anyone down at an airport.
That was the best airport run of all
ever
time.
Again.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. The one thing I will say that it turns the airport run on its head a little bit, unlike most airport runs, that it's like a romantic gesture, this one is from the start kind of upsetting and creepy.
It's full-on manipulation.
Yeah.
So Virginia, Dan Logan proposes to her. He puts a ring on her finger, but... Exactly. But she gets the call. She has to come to the police station.
Yeah.
And, of course, she does. In the middle of the proposal.
She shouldn't have.
And she comes down there, and her and Bill have this moment where she basically is like, I'm leaving. He says how much he loves her, and I thought it was an obvious but nice reveal of when he sees her hand in the ring, and it's like he takes her hand, and then, there's a ring there. Mm-hmm. But then he gets word that they're going to lose everything. If Bill and Virginia aren't back in that office, they are going to lose everything. They're going to lose the book. They're going to lose the practice. And he's like, Virginia will never let that happen, which is probably true because of how it would affect other people and other people's lives. And so that airport run isn't about, I need to run and get you because I love you. It's like, I've found a new way to manipulate you. Yeah, and that's what's so sick about it.
But it's still a plot maneuver that we've seen that it's supposed to instill a feeling in us that, it's cheap. It's a cheap one. It's an easy get.
Well, once Little Brown Man came in and told Betty that he had a friend at the police station who told him what had happened with Bill, I was like, okay, you've officially, if you were a little convoluted, you've officially become fully convoluted, and I don't want to sit and watch this anymore. It was just
that was a little convenient.
Why would you do that? You just want to have this pressure and this speeding to the end. Okay, now we have this thing that he's to run for. You don't need to do that.
Does it make it better that though Bill relents, Bill basically in the boxing metaphor stays down? Does it make that? Does the payoff of that to the scene help at all?
Well, it's tough because it's successful in the way that since we care so much about these people who work at this office, we want to come back next season to make sure that they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So in that way, you know what I mean? If we're putting our emotional stake in them, then I get that.
I thought it was a weak choice to have, and not to have him not. I thought the entire thing of him running was a weak choice. I felt from the moment that he had Little Brown Man come in and say that, I was like, ugh. There's no reason for you to do this. It's not necessary. And I think they could have done better. Overall, the season, I felt they could have done better in terms of writing. And with this, you should follow more with the work and less with their personal life at a certain point. The reason I think a lot of people enjoy the show is because it had a great mixture of their personal life. What does that sound?
We're getting a little something here.
A little feedback. A little bit. And their personal life and their work life. And this season, it's been so much of their personal life that I haven't gotten any of their work life.
Because now it's just this relationship drama.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
I was thinking about that while watching. I was thinking this has really become all about the relationship and not the sex research. The surrogate program was a little bit, but it didn't really, unfortunately, it didn't really end up going anywhere.
And it never seemed like they put the actual effort to make it realistic in the writing. It always seemed like it was something that was just a setup.
Well, it was it turns out to be a setup for the madness of this finale. Yeah. Basically, at the end of the day.
I think like the first 2 seasons had a way to kind of mimic the work, that's like sexy and exciting, and and letting that kind of like letting sex kind of be, the stages of sex kind of even like affect the writing and stuff like that, and like. Was this sexy or exciting?
This was not a sexy season. No, I think we talked about this a few weeks back. I said the sexiest sex scene was Allison Janney's.
I know. Yeah.
And nothing against Allison Janney, but that's kind of unexpected in the show Masters of Sex. That's going to be in your whole scene. There was nothing like the few times that Bill and Virginia did have sex, like even when they were trying out things in this it was like the surrogate program, that felt very mechanical.
Super run of the mill.
And it was supposed to, but in the past seasons there have been it's been playful about certain taboos, and it's been just visually sexier. Not that I need to, not that I'm asking for it to be. You need
bring it on. I love it.
Just a little bit more. A little bit more for a Showtime show. Like, let's be real. We know what
at least the affair is coming back.
The
affair is coming back, so we're gonna get our.
We'll talk about that, but you couldn't get that. We'll talk about that off air. But it's a great show.
It's a great show.
So anyway. So the airport run, and now do we assume when Virginia kept looking back that it is that she's afraid he's not that he's afraid he is?
I mean, the fact that she's looking at all.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that say enough?
Yeah. I also do love that Bill couldn't run out of the police station after because he was waiting for the paperwork.
On the typewriter. That was really funny, actually. He's like, it just, it takes as long as it takes. Click, click,
right.
click,
Because,
click.
he has not taken a typing class.
I really enjoyed that.
It was. I felt bad for Dan. I felt bad for Dan, Logan, or Dan, Betty, Libby, Johnny.
Well, let's talk about the Libby Johnny scene.
Barton, good on you. But
I want to talk about that too. But let's talk about the Libby Johnny scene.
Another really wonderful scene.
Because that was really good. And I felt really bad.
But it didn't offer any new information, really, though.
No, but I felt like they needed that. I felt Johnny also needed this moment, although I feel bad. This kid's going to obviously blame himself because he still thinks that this is all... Like, when they always say, like, oh, it's not the kid's fault. And it isn't, but this kid really has reason why he thinks it is.
Yes. How many Masters kids are there? 3, right?
Yes.
I would have liked to see maybe the other kids in that scene. Just to be like, because that affects everybody, you know what I mean? And if she's going to tell Johnny that, like, mommy and daddy are going to live separately for a little while.
They never utilize that baby. I don't know who watches that baby.
Yeah.
I just think that could have been a really strong family moment because Libby has always been about the family. Mm-hmm. So if we could have kind of
them all
seen her
together.
and like a mother bear, with her cubs around her, I think that would have been really, really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it is, if nothing else, it's good that Libby ends up alone. She needs it. She needs it. I wish she had Paul.
Yeah.
But she needs
you've been preaching for her to be alone.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah. I mean, would have been nice if it was of her own.
Yeah, on her own terms.
Well, Adrian, you got your wish. Yeah. Libby's alone.
I feel bad that it happened that way.
Yeah.
But,
And Dan Logan now. Let's talk about him. Because I do feel bad for Dan Logan. Because
really good acting from him in this episode, I thought. Even though I wasn't crazy about I thought... He did a really good job.
Josh Charles did a great job, I think, this season. Because even when we first saw him, we thought he was going to be kind of a creep.
But there was a lot of vulnerability from him today, and I thought that was really sweet because he does it so subtly, but he just had these like little moments of doubt in his eyes when he was talking to Virginia that I thought was really lovely.
Coming back from Mexico for a quickie divorce. I guess if you need a divorce, go to Mexico.
Good to know.
There was more charisma in Dan walking off that plane than I've seen in the show ever. Yeah. I was like, whoa, like that is charisma.
It was like a Mad Men kind of moment
really
when he's walking off that plane.
Yeah. I wish we still got to do that. Get on planes outside.
Burbank.
Oh, you can?
Burbank Airport.
Yeah,
I'm going to book a flight.
Believe me, it's not as glamorous as that.
Well, no,
I'm going to have like a hat and one of those round suitcases.
Well, you can make it so. I get dressed up when I go to the airport sometimes. But and then Hawaii.
I just
Hawaii
get drunk.
Has walk off.
Okay, good to know. If you want to relive a Dan Logan moment, go to the Burbank, the Bob Hope
Airport in Los Angeles
or Hawaii.
But Dan, when he showed back up at the office, it was a bit of a repetitive scene. It did feel like, but at the end, I mean, said last week, like, well, this season's got to end with Dan Logan getting kicked to the curb. But
They did change it up.
he's not kicked to the curb.
Well, we don't really know. We got, we knew it was going to be a cliffhanger.
She got on that plane with him, though.
Oh, did she step up?
Did she?
I don't remember seeing her
We never
step
saw that.
onto the plane.
We never saw her get on the plane.
But but we know it's going to be a temporal jump. So for the sake of argument, let's just
Maybe.
say that she got on.
Maybe not.
Because it would be weird if it would be less weird if we came back for next season a couple months or years later and she had gone with him, or a year. We wouldn't skip years. But
They did
we
skip
have.
years.
we have. Okay, so there you go. If we came back and there was a big temporal jump, it would be crazier if she had stayed. That was something we would have need to see happen, as opposed to her getting on the plane is something that we can
Well, season 1 into season 2, they started right where they ended. So it was him standing outside and she.
Yeah.
And then season 2 into season 3, they jumped 6 years.
Yeah, that's right.
So who knows what they're going to do?
Well, I mean, look, there are a lot of balls up in
I
the
don't
air
think we
besides
can jump
Virginia.
that with all this lawsuit stuff. We can't jump that far.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, what is of the book? What is of the clinic? And clearly, again, we are playing fast and loose with reality. Anything you know about Masters and Johnson, throw out the window.
Yeah.
I remember early in the season, the glory days of us debating about their kids, like how many in reality. Anyone out there who's still holding the show to reality of their lives, forget it.
Yeah.
You know.
You watch a PBS documentary. That's what you want.
But I obviously see that's the thing, and I don't know how you can make a big jump, because saving the clinic, saving the book, and saving the relationship with Virginia are all things that if we jumped into and it's like, oh, remember when those crazy prostitution charges were
right.
on?
That's what I'm saying. That's why, with everything that's going on, you know what? Now that I'm thinking of it, I bet you we come back next season right where we left off.
Or at least within
a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't imagine there's going to be a crazy
Huge
time jump.
Yeah.
Now, we talked a little bit last week about maybe this isn't a show where people get happy endings, and maybe no one on the show.
Happy endings is a sex euphemism.
So this season they certainly weren't getting happy
Certainly
endings.
not. Yeah.
But Barton might.
Isn't that great? I was watching this being like, I really hope this dinner goes well and that nothing bad happens and that they get to be really cute with each other because they are so cute together. And then all of that worrying will have been for naught.
I got really nervous the whole time I was watching the dinner.
I was too, but I was
too.
When we
really...
reached out and held his hand, I was like, I'm so happy. Something bad.
It was so sweet. I love Jonathan.
Yeah.
Can I just say that? I love him.
Yeah, that was great. The whole first when he wakes up at Jonathan's place, and Barton. Look, I will say this: Barton, he's getting there. He's getting there,
Yeah.
and Jonathan, I think is going to, and I think Jonathan knows he's going to have to be a little
Take it easy.
patient
Yeah, take
with
it easy.
them.
Yeah.
Well, even with the birthday and saying I really wanted, some cake, and so that's why I told them. But I thought one candle would be okay.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the perfect Jonathan compromise, where, okay, Barton, when he's talking about, should I make mashed potatoes from a box and stuff like that, and Betty luckily steps in.
Wait, also,
as she always
I'm sorry,
does.
Barton, how much equipment do you need to mash? You need a fork and a hot potato. That's all you need to make mashed potato, right? What
Barton
kind?
doesn't know.
I'm just saying, what kind of equipment do you not have to make a mashed potato?
He doesn't cook. He doesn't know.
Yeah, remember
Anyway.
he had the woman upstairs from his bachelor pad cooking him casseroles and things.
That's true.
You'd be surprised.
I'm saying
the amount of
I made a
times.
mashed potato when I was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
Well, Barton, it's good to see that, look, they're never gonna. It's always going to be tough. It's always going to be an uphill battle, especially because also Barton's
It's still
the
an uphill
times,
battle for gay men now.
That's true. That's
the
true.
gay lesbian community.
Sometimes I lose track of this being in liberal Los Angeles,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it is. So, and especially at Barton's
That horrible
age,
Stonewall movie.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard not great things.
Me too.
I had an old classmate. He wrote "Hit the Wall," which is about Stonewall.
I was thinking,
He hates it. He hates
I
it.
can't wait to see the
But
movie
anyways.
about the riots, about the Stonewall riots movie.
I love it. But Barton, so good for him. He's held his hand there in public. That was big. Of course, Betty comes in and ruins the whole thing because she has to get him to bail out Beau.
I know. Who knew she'd be the one?
But I mean, that was she
totally
had no choice.
justified,
It was
yeah.
No, of
justified,
course.
and I'm sure even Jonathan understood. I mean, he works there for Christ's sake.
Betty was probably
so-
having a heart attack. Oh, bummed we didn't get to see Helen in this episode, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm assuming whenever we
Helen,
do.
Austin, Tessa.
Tessa, whoa! Now that I'm thinking about it, it's crazy we didn't see Tessa in this episode.
I felt like this season didn't do enough with her rape.
What the hell? I mean, like
and we said that. I was like, what if they just never touch it again? And they're never going to touch it again.
Well, the last time we saw, there was this moment. It was after that the mother had found out that she was seeing this guy, and there was this moment where Tessa was like kind of in bed crying, but the mother couldn't see that she was crying. And I think that's the last we saw of Tessa all season.
No, the last we saw was then she decided to try to have sex with. She had sex with. What's his face on her
Virginia's
mom's bed?
That was after
very
that?
last moment, yeah. Because she made that decision.
It's just
You're
crazy that you would have built something up so much for the first half of the season with so little payoff.
And such a big storyline,
bizarre.
and to just back out of that storyline. Sorry, yeah.
That is so weird, right?
It is weird. It is weird, and I wish they had. I wish they had done something with it.
Yeah.
Something with it a little bit
Same.
more. There is some good comic relief though in this episode. Betty running around, stalling is with some good Betty moments.
Yeah, but we got to touch on the best comedic moment between Nora and Virginia.
Oh my God.
So Virginia
This was so dope.
does come back, and why Nora would hang around at this point?
She's an idiot.
And just to like drill, just to keep screwing it, you know.
I guess she believes
screw.
I have to save these people's souls. They'll understand. She says understand. I mean, it's total BS, but I guess that's the justification of why she would hang around.
The biggest mistake. I tell that to anyone who tries to convert me to anything. I'm like, the biggest mistake you can make is wasting your time trying to convince me that you are right.
There you go. Good to know.
So, I'm going to go.
Good to know for future AfterBuzz shows.
Right.
But
I'm just talking about religious. I'm not talking about
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I would love to see you like talking to a Greenpeace outside the Ralph's or something.
You have a minute for the environment? No.
but
Like, I got frozen pizzas. No, I do not have a minute for the environment.
Virginia yells at her basically like you're like weak and deluded, and they get into this argument in her office, and then the best moment of the episode,
Yes.
Virginia, she had the box,
Yeah.
right? And she swings it right
And it
at
was like
Nora.
funny because
Knocks her.
she did it exactly when I was like, oh my, will you just fucking hit her? Oh my God,
that's
hit her.
exactly what I thought too. I was like, I just wish she would punch her, and as soon as I thought that, she
She
hit
did
her
it.
with the
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's what I'm saying. Satisfying.
That was very satisfying.
They're going to have to be a lot more stricter with the background checks of people they let work in this
They
office.
should have done that to begin with. They should have done that.
You know
to
what?
begin
Bill
with.
felt he knew this girl. Bill, look, I get.
You know, no one.
I get why
You
Bill
know nothing, Bill Masters.
Yes.
I get why Bill was duped by her, though. You know, girl from the old neighborhood.
But you know what
and-
though? She did kind of let down her guard because remember he had to come back and then that scene in the car where he was like,
Yeah.
gotta get you back on track and everything like that. So she was kind of wavering in what she was doing.
Yeah, I think she might have been wavering a little bit because, you know, when you
I
spend.
don't think her hooking up with Bill was part of the plan, was it?
I don't
No.
think so at all. Because, you know, here's the thing.
But she did use it against him. But.
Yeah.
But it's just
Sure
like
will.
when, like, you know, someone goes undercover and then it's like, oh, maybe this only happens on TV. But then they're like, I've been bonding with this mobster and now I gotta screw him over. You know, it's the same thing. Like she's been, like, I think she genuinely bonded with some of these people, but then it was the time she had to come out.
It's
And she
like
also
Reverse Flash, having to never mind. Don't listen if you watch The Flash and you haven't finished. Like him becoming Harrison Wells and then having a bond with Barry
Oh
Allen.
no!
And then all of a sudden
spoiling
being
everything.
We have never, by the way, in this Masters of Sex show, we have never referenced so many other shows.
Though
Than
it's
we
not
have
a
in-
point of reference.
Yes, it's true.
There are
but,
so many good shows on TV right
Well,
now. We absolutely should.
But
bring
I
them in.
think it says something because I think what we're one of the things we're kind of referencing here is that there are some other shows that have done some
Doing
of
it
this
better.
stuff better.
Exactly.
basically.
You know, Lester had some nice funny moments where he was rambling on about the film
That
work
was really
he did,
sweet.
and
The length of the ejaculation is like so new wave.
Right.
and then Jane talking about like, oh, this woman who didn't know what the clitoris, or
Yeah.
I guess it was a guy who
Yeah.
didn't know it was a clitoris.
I was nice.
was.
I was happy to see her.
So we had like a little comic
Touch
moments,
upons of the other characters.
but like people, you're right. People's side characters' deeper storylines, like Betty and Helen or Tessa, we didn't really delve
just
into.
fell to the wayside.
No,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true.
So I'm trying to see. I think we might have covered just about.
One more thing I didn't like was the music for the credits. It sounded like something out of the OC. It was so weird.
Oh, yeah.
It was like some indie, like Lexi Murdoch sounding stuff. It was crazy.
Future-based.
So we're being pretty hard on the season.
I hated it, man. I'm sorry. I love Masters of Sex, but I hated the writing this season, and I felt like they had some good storylines that they let just fall to the wayside, and they can do better.
I think third seasons are kind of notorious for kind of being a make or break moment.
I think that's the restaurant rule.
I always figured it was second seasons, the sophomore slump.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. But either way,
a lot of shows I watch, I feel like the third season you kind of have to muddle through, and then you get to the next one.
Well, I mean, but so would we rank the seasons 1, 2, 3 like that in order?
I think so.
I think so too. But
are you guys going to come back though?
yes.
Yeah.
Because we've had some people in the YouTube comments being like, "They lost me. Bye. I'm not coming back."
Well, here's the thing: we're being very hard on the show right now, but I think there's enough good going on still in this show.
Let's get positive for a second. Let's talk about what's good.
I mean, no, there is. Well, you know what? Maybe do we want to do like maybe this in a predictions for next season?
Sure.
So let's do that.
Let's run the predictions.
Predictions for next season.
There we go.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV.
There we go.
Feels like home.
Okay. Now, we're complaining that there's so many balls left up in the air and there was so much repetition to the relationship and something like that. We know they're coming back for a fourth season. So maybe in some defense of some of the things that... Because I like the direction of so many things. I just don't like the way it's playing out. Next season, they know they're coming back. So, I mean, did they just expect, we'll be patient and these things will all be revealed next season. We'll deal with Tessa's rape next season. Things like that. I mean, I know you're rolling your eyes, but will that redeem some of these things?
I mean, I truly have faith that this relationship stuff between Virginia and Tessa will not get solved until we talk about that incident in the car with Virginia. I think that still really needs to happen. So I'm really crossing my fingers that we're going to get that next season.
Well, do you, because I'm kind of opening up this predictions a little differently of things that we think for next season in general.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still got to believe at some point that will be dealt with because this is a show where people's secrets do eventually come out.
But it doesn't usually cross seasons. I feel like, the 1, 2, 3, we've kind of had everything been very enclosed in its season.
When we get back next season,
except for the Barton stuff that came back.
Let me ask this: when we get back next season, is Libby leaving, or is Libby going to fight to keep the family unit together?
No,
I think Libby's out.
Yeah,
she's done. I think when she said, "I'm not paying your bail. Do not come home," that was her saying. And also the moment she said, You can't take this back. You're saying these things and you can't unsay them. She said something along those lines. It was her way of saying, like, once it's said, it's over. Like, there's no, like, the illusion is gone,
Okay, further to the point, we know Virginia's going to come back.
Yeah.
I mean, this next season could start. She could be, I mean, I guess Josh Charles will come back for at least some of this season. I mean, I would hate to come into next season and it's like, oh, yeah, I left Dan Logan at the airport. Like we were saying, it seems like that would be too important, and we've built up this relationship too much.
I think, the biggest benefit they could do is to tone down the Bill Virginia storyline for a bit. I think just because I know it's called Masters of Sex, Bill Masters, Virginia Johnson, but I think it was a bit of an overload in terms of dealing with them to the point that I got exhausted. And so I think focusing a little bit more on how their decisions have affected everyone else to kind of lead us in would be a better choice.
Yeah.
I think Bill will be calmer next season. I feel like when he told the camp to stop, that was him starting to accept some of the craziness he's been.
He's kind of taking responsibility for some of his actions.
If the first episode of season 4 started with everyone going, "Where's Virginia? Where's Bill?" and focusing on how that's affected them, I would love that episode. Like, if it was just about the aftermath of their decisions and we don't see them at all.
The people who have suffered.
It would be cool to see an episode of Masters. It would be really cool to see an episode of Masters of Sex, especially a premiere episode without either Virginia or Bill in it.
I will assure you that will not happen.
I know. I'm just saying, like, in a perfect Masters of Sex world.
I would watch the Betty episode. Of Betty's Day at the Office.
I forget there's a show that did that where the main character was
Lost
gone.
did that with the Paolo,
Lost did that a couple of times.
and there was a couple in there that were shouldn't have done that. The Nikki and is it Nikki and Paolo?
It's possible. I just don't think
the worst episode of TV.
Yeah. That was good because it was the last of them.
Yeah, right.
But okay, so look, the clinic. I guess that's the frustrating thing about these cliffhangers. We know that the clinic isn't going to be under forever. We know that another book is going to come out.
That's what I was going to say. It's so hard for this because we know that Bill's not going to go to jail. We know that Bill and Virginia are going to get back together at some point. We know all these things. Our predictions are just what's the thread? How do we get there? What's point A to point B?
Yeah, it's interesting because I just said throw everything you know about their life out the window, but there are still certain things that can't be completely thrown out the window. And one of them, like you said, Bill's not doing any hard time.
Yeah.
There will be more books to come out. Is that? I know you know a little bit more about them in reality than me.
Yeah.
Do you know if they're the MD?
That eyebrow.
The MD was taken off their next book?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I thought that was silly, to be honest with you, because it's like you can take it off the book, but it still exists.
But I think that meant something to her.
I think it did too. I just thought it was like it felt kind of like a paperclip and Band-Aid kind of solution.
Who cares? Like, be genuine. I think if Bill had been genuine with anyone, he would not be in half the mess he's in right now. If he'd just been genuine. And not trying to manipulate
so ego-driven.
It really blew his mind that Libby and Virginia had this kind of spoken but semi-unspoken pact between them. Like that blew his mind, and I felt like he was more offended that he was left out of it.
Shows you how naive.
I know, but again, that was one of those satisfying moments where it's just like a little bit of girl power up in here. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that was great. Look, that was the best scene of the episode, in my opinion.
That's true.
And one of the best scenes. See, that's the thing.
And again, Caitlin Fitzgerald, lovely.
Yeah,
God.
she killed it in this episode.
She's gotten extremely better. Or maybe the character's just been better written now.
In the first episode, first episode that we did together, I said that she's had the best, to me, arc of the series, where she's grown the most. This season, she had some setbacks, but she ended strong again. Look, I still think they're doing all great work, and that's why I'm going to stick with the show.
There's one person I think who isn't doing great work, and who I think is calling it in, but I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, we'll talk about it.
Lizzy Caplan?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh. You're not alone there. Lots of people think that, so we don't have to feel
calling it in.
We don't have to feel so weird about calling that calling that out, because a lot of people have been.
Well, I've heard things about, in general, her on other shows.
Let's talk after.
Yeah, right. But anyway,
we are gonna gossip after this.
We'll gossip with you guys on the YouTube page. Yeah. So let's right before we end then, because I'm going to stick with it because I think there are still moments. I think it's almost like a flawed masterpiece in a weird way. Like, there's still moments of greatness, like that scene with Libby and Bill, that you get, and maybe the package overall needs to be better. And I think they might know that also. I mean, it sounds like this season had some growing pains from the start, where they had some legal problems on themselves, which is why we get that disclaimer at the start. So maybe next season starts on more solid footing.
Hopefully.
I just want to take, before we go, a quick poll of Adrian. So do you think there's going to be a big time jump? How much time do you think is going to pass between seasons?
I hope not more than 1 minute, but probably going to be about a week to 2 weeks.
Quinn?
I'm in the same boat. I don't think we're going to get another big time jump like last season.
I initially assumed we would because they did it before, but now that we've been talking about it, I'm like, no way. They
Doesn't
can't.
make as much sense.
They can't, because too many balls are up in the air. So I'll give them that one. We got to tune in next season to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. You got us, you masters of sex writers. You got us coming back.
Yeah. No, I'm in. I'm a completist too. And I still,
it's hard to give up.
So,
we're this deep in the trenches. You know what I mean? You can't just leave now.
You'd be surprised. No, I'm just gonna stay. But I've done it.
You know what? I quit Sons of Anarchy halfway through, so it's been known to happen.
I guess that's a wrap then. Also on the AfterBuzz season 3 of Masters of Sex. One last time, Adrian, tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. That's MSADRIANSNOW. And thank you guys so much for tuning in this year.
Quinn.
You guys can find me on Twitter at Quinn Scillian. You can find me on Instagram at Quinstagram, and you can search for me on Vine at the Quinn B. It was such a pleasure, you guys.
And you can find me on Twitter at The Real Will Link. You can also listen to my pop culture comedy podcast, Will Sean Podcast. And you know what? Yeah, tweet at me, tweet at us. I want to know maybe how you feel about this season. From the message boards, I think some of you are with us. But let's keep the conversation going. And thank you so much for watching. We will see you next year.
Woo!
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.